Hey y'all, we are here with the Map It Out luxury client onboarding. I think I called it something else in the beginning, but that's what I decided to stick with today because y'all know I had a small mishap on Tuesday with the class, but that's all right. So we're gonna record and I'm just gonna hop right in because I don't really have a whole lot of things and I'm gonna do my introduction on one of these slides anyway. So here we are, Map It Out Lux Client Onboarding because luxury and lazy go together. So first things first, luxury is, I just want to clarify this, luxury does not mean that you are super expensive. It doesn't mean that you have to pay a certain amount, or it doesn't mean like it's only for fine things. Luxury is simply a mindset. So like if you want to get coffee on your car ride home, or if you're like me and you work from home and you go to a different space, that's luxury to me because I'm seeing something different. But like luxury is totally dependent on the person. And the reason why I call this a luxury client onboarding, because you're making the client feel like you're taking your client on an experience. Like you're not just taking their money and providing a service. Like you're tickling different senses. Like, wow, like they thought of this, or wow, just like the little extra step. Like a lot of times people miss the basic stuff, like simply sending an email after you send something to them. Like little things like that go a long way. And that is part of what I call the service provider luxury onboarding technique, just because you're high communication, you're doing a little extra, but you'll see that in the workbook and everything. So I'm not going to go ahead and drill y'all over what I have. So let's get started. So first things first, who am I? What makes me qualified? Blah, blah, blah. I am Adriana, the lazy millennial. I go by Audrey, but my real name or my full name is Adriana. I was once a virtual unicorn assistant. And if no one knows what that is, or if you're kind of like in a different industry, I'm pretty sure every industry has this person. But overall, I was the person that did any and everything for clients, but I had no boundaries. I honestly had no goals. So that's why I was doing everything. Like they came to me for everything. I had no like straightforward path. I didn't know what processes were. Well, excuse me. I knew what processes were, but I didn't create them for my own business because for whatever reason, I associated that stuff with like the corporate world, and I didn't need that as a solopreneur or online business owner, which was the furthest thing from the truth. And long story short, got significantly burned out, especially during COVID when my business picked up significantly, had team, couldn't use them. Like I was hiring like left and right, but no one was getting any work because I had everything inside my head. And it was just a mess. Like I'm not gonna focus on that today, but it was just a mess. If y'all hear my past stories, y'all hear about that. But anyway, so long story short, I had to take some time off. I got rid of a good bit of clients, had to settle down, start working on my own processes, start doing my own standard operating procedures. And once things started getting better with that, I started doing it a little bit for clientele. And once things started clearing up with them, it pretty much kind of took off, and I in 2021, I decided to make it like a full thing. Like, you know what? I'm going to really preach about standard operating procedures for solopreneurs and make this my thing. And I was like, I can't stay in the same name because I tried doing it a little bit under the virtual assistant name I had, Ava's LLC. And it still had virtual assistant in the title. Like I couldn't roll with that. So I was like, I need a different name. And I always hear things about millennials being lazy and stuff. And like, I was doing like a meditation one day and I was like, do I really want to do this? And it was just like, the sign was just like, just go for it, just do it. So that's where that came from, lazy millennial, rock and roll with it. And here we are. But outside that, that's my little story of how I landed here and everything. I'll talk about it probably throughout this presentation, but that's who I am. And of course, the lazy millennial, we reject hustle culture because, again, I'm going to focus on the onboarding portion. When it came to onboarding clients, again, I focus more so on the client and not just myself. So that's why what contributed to the overworking, the burnout, all that good stuff. So this is why also too, before we even do like the onboarding portion, we're going to talk about ourselves and our businesses and setting boundaries. So that's first. So yeah, we got that. And then also I love luxury. And like I said, luxury is a mindset because whatever, like I can't really say what other people consider luxury, because some people consider luxury to be those expensive things, but it's just the simple things like getting a little card in the mail, or a thank you or a little shout out on social media, little things like that, especially as service providers doing that for clientele. Like it's the little things that go a long way, and people remember that. Like if you ever go through a thread or just ask a question in a Facebook group, be like, what's the best customer service that you received? I promise you it's something like, oh, they did this for me, or like some people said social media shout out, or I got a little gift, or I got this. It's those simple things. But moving on, because I could spend forever on that. And this is why I have a PowerPoint, because as y'all know, or if you aren't familiar with me too much, I tend to ramble a lot and I can stretch these things out really long, but I have a PowerPoint here today, so I'm not gonna do that. All right, so where it all begins, before you start onboarding, before you start taking clients, ideally, we set ourselves up first. So how do we do that? Before we get to the workbook, I wanna be switching in between the workbook and the slideshow, so just bear with me. And I mentioned this before I started this recording, but if I pop out, but you still hear me, just know I'm here. Zoom has been acting kind of funky with me, so it is what it is. So first, before you accept clients, we got to make a plan. We got to start mapping the process. And before you can do that, we need to figure out what exactly we're trying to do here. Like, I know you may have a particular service or services or digital products that you want to sell, but even with that, you need to figure out like who your market is, like how much you need to sell to actually make money, because business, we got into business to sell. Like it's not just simply like, I want to help people. Yeah, you do, but you're also a for-profit. So you need to make sure you are profiting in your business so that way you can grow and scale. And I'm assuming because you have this, you want to grow and scale. So yeah, so we got to price ourselves for profit first. So I have mine to start out with. What did I say? Okay, so like we're talking about how much you want to bring in a month. For mine, I decided to use my number because it's a whole lot easier instead of just saying money or not having anything. And I have a squirrel brain, what they call it. So like I have to have something documented for me to actually focus on that. So first off, I have my monetary goals. So like for mine now, because I had to add in childcare. So this is my newer numbers I have to go for a month. So I want to bring home at the bare minimum $7,000 a month to my home. And that honestly, about half of that goes to childcare, at least half. But anyway, we're not gonna get onto that. But I have to bring home at least $7,000 a month before expenses. And this is something we don't really think about when we start a business. At least I didn't. Like I started as a virtual assistant. I kind of was just taking advice from people in Facebook groups where just like, oh, just look at other people's pricing and kind of price yourself around them, or whatever you feel is right, or charge what you need to what is the buzzwords? I can't think of anything right now, but like, oh, you want to hit 10K months. That's like a buzzword right now. Like charge your worth. That's the popular one. Charge your worth. Like I'm worth $1 million. So I can't really do that. But overall, start with the basics. I have different things included inside mine. So your number may be smaller than mine. Beforehand, I was only trying to get like extra money for diapers and all that stuff because I started my business with my son in diapers. But as time evolved, I realized as my company grew, I realized I need more help inside the home. So like, that's why I need a nanny. That's why I need someone to help clean my house. That's why I need a chef, all that good stuff, because I can't do this by myself. So whatever your number is, add that stuff up, add up whatever your rent is, mortgage, your basic stuff, electricity, water, all that stuff, you add that up. And then also too, if you're like me, I like splurging on stuff. So like if I want to get a coffee a couple times a week, that's going inside my budget. If I want to go shopping at Target, which my son and I do pretty much every Friday, we go walk around Target, get our Starbucks after, whatever it is. I add that price. Like, how much do I want to spend here at Target? Added like a little spending budget, maybe like 200. That's low, but you know what I mean. Whatever numbers, whatever you want to spend your money on, make sure you're adding all of this into the total. So I have the total where like the basic necessity total. So that'll be like the 7K. Like I need a nanny and stuff in my own thing. I need someone to help me because if the house isn't clean, I can't function. I don't do good work. Or like if I want to pay to go somewhere else, that's a necessity for me. So whatever necessities, I have a price point for that. And then whatever else is like extra, like a gym membership. I don't necessarily need it, but it's something I want. So I'm going to add into my pricing. So things like that, whatever you feel like you need to add inside of your pricing for you to thrive a month, add it in there. So that's the number you need to take home. So we got to know the difference between the take home pay and the gross pay. Because I didn't think about that, because I used to have numbers, but when I made the number, and quickly realized, oh yes, I need to pay more for taxes, or like I need people to help me inside my company. So like I need to pay these people. They're not going to go off good vibes. So things like that, you want to make sure you kind of add those expenses on top of everything, and then you'll have the number that you need to hit monthly. You're not going to hit it every month consistently. Like you're going to build up towards that, but at least you have an idea what you need to do and build off of that. So with that being said, I was going to hit on a couple of questions. I don't want to read out the whole exact thing because y'all got the workbook. So I'm not about to read the whole thing for y'all, but we had the boundaries. So like once you figured out your pricing, this is where you kind of figure out like, okay, I have my pricing. How much is my service now? Or what did I have my services marked? If you didn't have your services marked, ideally we're living in a perfect world. You don't have your pricing just yet, but you have like how much you want to bring or how much you want your company to make. So now that you have this number, you kind of split it up like, okay, I'm going to go off myself again. Like, okay, I'm doing VIP days now. So how much VIP days do I need to do to meet my gross pay? Like the pay to cover everything. Like how many do I need to do a month? How many do I have time to do a month? And like, do I have dedicated time? If I don't have dedicated time, what kind of things can I push to help bring me to the number and I'm not squeezing so much time out? So these are things you want to think about. So please, 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 these are all part of your process. Once you do this complete workbook, like you already have your onboarding processes. So all you got to do is just kind of piece it together, make it to like a little pretty document, or you can leave it in here, doesn't matter. And you'll just kind of be referring off of that and kind of building off as you go. So that's why I have it designed like this. So that way you already saw your SOP journey, your documentation journey. So yay. But yeah, that's only if you fill it out. So make sure you fill it out. But overall, like, yeah, I'm not gonna read all of this, but you're figuring out what you're promoting, and yeah, that's pretty much about it. So once you figure that out, then we move on to lead generation. So now that you have an idea of what you need to promote, you know what services you want to focus on so you can bring in your gross pay, pay off people, pay yourself for one. That's the most important thing. Pay yourself. That's what your business for. We got your lead generation. So I am going to go back to sharing the slideshow because I'm not sure how it looks. I can't remember how these look after the recording. But anyway, so making a plan. I kind of already went through this. I'm not going to go too in detail with this because if y'all saw in your workbook, I mentioned someone with Leads to Funnel Pro. Her and I are actually going to be doing a joint class if we haven't done already, because again, this is recorded. So if we haven't done this already, stay tuned for that because she is a beast when it comes to lead generation and using the funnels and stuff. I know basically I can help the process, but like you want a professional to do this stuff. So like we'll have that going in, but I have at least the basics of like lead generation, like thinking the type of people you want to serve. Honestly, if you're just starting out, you're gonna play around with stuff. Like even for myself, like I know who my clientele is and I'm kind of expanding out of it, but like my business kind of expanded and that grew, and like I kind of outgrew certain people. So you're always going to be switching and changing things. So like, don't feel like you have to be dead stuck on a niche or something. Like figure out the people you want to work with, the type of person you want to work with. Like for me, like I'm bubbly, I'm silly, I'm very airheaded. Sometimes the people I work with are the same way, and it works for me because I know exactly what they need and how to help them because I'm the same way. You may not want to work with people that are just like you. You might want to find somebody that's different, but when I say type of people, like just think about like the actual personality, because if you're helping somebody in their business and you can't stand them, like it's not gonna work. I tried it, it's not. But anyway, we got that. And then of course I said be active because you got to keep showing your face. I know people want to say be humble. I don't want to do this stuff. Like I just want to stay in the background. Well, you got to work first before you can stay in the background and live the lazy life. But what else do I want to say? Find the software. I'm not going to talk too much on that just yet because I want to emphasize on mapping out the process first before you try to find the software, because the software should be last. Yeah, and then again, like I said, you won't always hit your goal, and passive income is a must. So like lead generation, you want to make sure you have something set in place. So if they don't necessarily work with you, you still at the bare minimum, not only have them in your email list, but like offer them softer things. So like sell something, like I had something, what, $9.99 or something like that. So that way, like they get the introduction of working with you. And a lot of times they end up being a client anyway, but make sure I'm not very fond of free items. Like they're cool and everything, but I want people to work and I need them to work, especially with what I do. So like I'll have something lower price to me. I'll have something lower price in my opinion and have them brought in that way and offer them that. But I still have my free community and all that good stuff. But overall, you want to lead them somewhere else. So that way you're still making a profit, because again, we are for profit and we need to make money. All right. And I'm pretty sure, I think I had this stuff in the workbook, just like where you want to promote at, like your social media. Recommendation, I would say only focus on maybe 1 or 2 platforms. Honestly, I would focus on 1 or 2 platforms, play around with it, because you don't really know where your audience is hanging. Like I know they say go where your audience is, but sometimes your audience just ain't there. So sometimes you need to like play around with different things, play around with your content. Like again, this is something that's going to grow. Like what worked before may not work now. Like I'm more on LinkedIn now. When I first started, I was mainly like on Facebook and Instagram. They're still amazing, but LinkedIn is showing its colors more for me. But overall, like you just figure out where you want to promote at and just play around with content and stuff, and then start moving around. Like once you got something down, then you can kind of like go towards whatever. Okay. All right, so we're gonna wrap that up. And fill out your workbook. That's my last thing for that section. All right, so now we're getting to the nitty gritty. They want to work together. So yay. Now what? Lo and behold, this is a struggle for a lot of people. So I'm going to kind of read off some of this stuff here, but like I really want to get into that workbook and have y'all fill stuff out because this is needed. All right, so the general overview. So how do you create the luxury experience in onboarding, right? So 1, do not wait for the sales call to get to know your client. This is a no. This is something I failed with, and I invested a good bit of money with a sales coach just to get me over the hurdle, because I'm just like, why am I spending like an hour talking to people and they don't end up signing? Like, what am I doing wrong? So you don't wait for the sales call. Like the sales call should only be for closing. And if they don't want to close with you or they don't want to move forward, then you leave them someplace else. And honestly, you kind of want to reduce that. From my business model, I reduce that because I don't want to be on the phone with everybody. And I want to be completely honest about it, because I don't like being on the phone. I like helping people, but I don't like being on the phone. So like, I don't like the mindless chatter and stuff. Like I get bothered with that. I can't do it. So like, I'm not going to build that to my business model. Like if I don't like something, I'm not going to do it for the sake of business. I'm going to do how I want to do it because I created my company. So I'm getting ahead of myself. So like the sales call, communication, I cannot stress this enough. Like communicate. I email, quick text. It may not be immediate. If you don't have it automated, that's fine, because a lot of people get stuck on the automation thing. It doesn't matter. If you can't get to it, just as long as the people know what's happening, like communicate. And then have an idea for the workflow, like whatever you're hiring for. Like I know for my VIP days, they have different structures to them, but I know overall, hopefully I can wrap them up within like 2 to 3 weeks. Some of them may be a little longer because they need more information, but overall have an idea of how you want things to go. And then also see like communicating that with your client, like, okay, like I want to make sure. Okay. Oh, well, you don't have to turn on the camera. If you want to, you can, girl. Sorry, y'all. But have an idea of how you want things to go. And then a lot of times too, the people I work with are mothers themselves. So like sometimes the due dates and stuff kind of get missed, or not missed, but I don't make it in time, or like they can't make a date in time, and like just having that understanding. But overall, it goes back into communication and then having like how a set structure of how you operate as well to work out. And then I put, remember, you are the expert, because people are coming to you. So don't don't be afraid about anything like the luxury experience. Like, you are in control of everything. You are helping them. Yes, you are enhancing their business, but like at the end of the day, you are still the service provider. You are in control. And if you feel like something else needs to be done, let them know. If you feel like you're going out the scope of your project and you need to charge them a little bit more, let them know. The point is, like, you want to make sure like you're communicating, and also too, you're not being a step stool for people as well. So like, be firm, give them experience, but also let it be known like you're in charge. Like, they chose right because you're so confident in yourself and how to do. Like, it does show off in your clientele. It's like, okay, yeah, like I got the best. Like, I'm cool. So if you say something, your word is law. But overall, so we got that. But I'm gonna switch over to the. Nope. Every time I hit escape, it is not working. So let me. Lord, y'all. All right, let's get to the workbook so we can start mapping this stuff out a little bit. We are scrolling. All right. So with the onboarding process, this is going to be different for everybody just because we're all different. We have different ways we want to do business. So first things first, some of these questions may be a little out of order. So first things first, ask yourself, do you want to be open or do you want to be more exclusive? Like for mine, I have to do application based. So like sometimes we actually have to read through like their answers and stuff. Like, yes, I have workflows in place that can trigger things, but sometimes I still want to read through and make sure like this person's a good fit with my company. So I would say mine's more exclusive. And when I say open, I don't mean that you work with any and everybody. It's just more so that, what do I want to say here? You are more accepting of people. Like people like go on your website and leave something and you would be willing to like at least listen to them or do like a discovery call. Whereas for me, I have to look through your answers. I got to research you. I got to look at your social security. I'm just kidding. But I got to do more research just to even get on a phone call with me. Whereas some people have it set up to where you fill out the form, we could book a call regardless of your answers and we can figure it out. It just depends how you want to have it. So starts with that. So once they come in, the lead magnet or the lead capture, excuse me. So this is the lead capture form. So like filling that out. And then also too, I want to bring up whenever you are doing lead captures, no matter how you have the setup, I would definitely add these few things inside of it. Let me see if I already have a space for it. If I do not, feel free to write it down in your notes. Because I honestly, like I said, if I don't write stuff down, I don't remember it at all. And I wrote these down, and Jakia definitely helped me out with this stuff. So yeah, I don't remember anything. But anyway, so what did I say? No, I don't have it down. So with a sales call, so if you're watching this, I'll go pretty slow because I know sometimes I tend to talk a little quick. Sales call, make sure one, you have definitely somewhere you can kind of research the person, because sometimes like we have their name and email and maybe their business name and then like that's it. Make sure you at least have a link for them to their social media and website, because they are coming to work with you. And if you're not a fan of how they're presenting themselves on social media, you can still give them a chance. It's up to you. But like sometimes you can kind of vibe off people, like just based on what they post and how their copy is and all that good stuff. So that's something I do. This is something you want to get in the habit of doing, because you want to research people before they work with you, because oftentimes they will give off or they will talk about things on their profile or like throughout their website. You kind of see how they navigate the world or whatever, mainly social media. You definitely want to get that. But you can tell like the type of business owners they may be based on what they put on their social media. Like for myself, like, you know, I'm goofy, like, you know, you're going to see some memes and stuff on my social media profile, but you'll also see a mix of business stuff and business tips and all that good stuff. So like people look at that and then they look at me, and then I may not be for everybody. They may see like the memes stuff like, oh, she is so unprofessional, I don't want to work with her. That's fine. I am my personality. I post what I want, and that's that. And some people don't like that. And if you're one of those people, that's fine. Like it is what it is. So like get into the habit of having their social media. So that's number one. Number two, what is their budget? I know people don't like talking about money a lot, but again, you're a for-profit business. Like, you got to get into the habit of talking about money. And then if you have a particular service or thing in mind, or I know some people don't put their pricing on their website. I put mine on there because I just want to be upfront. I don't feel like dealing with people. I don't want to get, that sounds terrible. We're gonna roll that. I like people, but I don't want to deal with that, like getting on the call and then having to discuss the pricing and stuff, and I have no idea. So they're like, oh, that's way out of budget or something. Like, I don't want to waste our time on that. So I have mine showing. So if you don't have your showing, a tip is to have like a starting at pricing so they at least have an idea of their budget. But if you don't even have that on their website, that's fine, do you? But the bare minimum on the lead capture form, make sure you have like, what is your budget, or what are you hoping to spend on this project? Something along those lines, so you kind of get an idea. Sometimes they put anything, sometimes they'll actually put a number. At least that gives you like, okay, like this is the thing that she has in mind. So like, they have something significantly low, you can kind of be like, well, I can't charge that. I have this digital product in our mind, like we talking lead generation or one of these sections. Or you can be like, I can't do it for that low because XYZ, like I'm doing this service, I'm doing this, that, and the third, and you'd be surprised because sometimes they will spend that much. It's just a matter of getting that out in the open. So talk about money. So number 2, make sure you mention what is their budget. And number 3, something else I found super helpful with even my sales process, how soon are they able to invest in the services? Because, you know, sometimes you get people that are just like, oh yeah, girl, like I'll go ahead, or boy, because I, man, because I know some of you dudes watching this, like sometimes it'd be like, yeah, I'm about to work with you, or we're gonna do this, that, and the third, and then you never hear from them again. Or sometimes it'll just be like a year. Like for me, I've had an instance where it's been like a year later someone actually decided to work with me, things like that. But the pricing changed, so it's just like, anyway, you kind of want to knock that out of the way too. So that's adding that little tidbit, like, okay, they have their budget. Are you ready to invest by this date? Or like, I think mine is like, are you ready to invest within 7 days or something like that? You can do something different, but that tip has helped me. So number 3, are you ready to invest? And then also too, another thing, this is the last thing I'm going to mention for like your sales call, your lead capture. What are their expectations of the project? Because that also too kind of weeds things out, because a lot of times people ask for help and you're not the person they actually need. So like another thing I have in my form, like, what are your expectations of the project? Or like, what are you expecting to get out of the project? Or something along those lines. You want to make sure you kind of have that mentioned, just because you want to have an idea where their mind is at, if you can help them. And if you can help them, great. If not, you can refer them to somebody else. So there's that. So those are the 4 things to have inside like the sales call, or at least mention. What else do I have? Oh yeah, I mentioned the options. I want to walk through this too. So like, what options you have if they're not a fit? I say everybody should have at the bare minimum some kind of free, at least a free thing. I prefer lower price item, digital product, or some kind of memberships are popular. Something where, of course, the mailing list, I'm pretty sure they're normally already on your mailing list and they're coming. Sometimes they're not. But overall, you want to have somewhere where you can stay in contact with them, or at least give them like some kind of introduction with working to you. So something I refer to service providers having some kind of consult, can be lower price, doesn't matter. And this also too goes towards the number we talked about earlier. So make sure you have something like that. So like, okay, maybe like for me, you can't afford my VIP day, or we can't do the VIP day. I don't think it's a fit for you right now. That's fine. Here's the consult. And then what I do is kind of like, okay, if we go through the consult and we realize, yeah, you know what, you are ready for the VIP day or for one of the bigger packages, you can take the price off, or however you want to do it. You can not do it, up to you. It's your business. I don't care. You can do that and just move into the bigger package, whatever you want to do. But overall, you want to give them like a lower level, so that way you're not totally losing them and they're still kind of like in your eyes and they still get support. So there's that. And another thing, 2, 3, network. I highly suggest doing this route, because this is not only a good way for building relationships with other service providers, but also too, when you are the go-to person for somebody, like that makes things a whole lot easier. A lot of people don't want to search for somebody else. Like if they need help with something, they don't want to have to go like on social media, on Facebook, trying to find somebody. And when you already have like a list, oh, you actually need this person, like for me. Oh, you actually need someone that works in social media. I have the perfect person for you. Let me go ahead and connect you with them right now. Like simple things like that adds to like the luxury mindset too, or the luxury onboarding, because even though you're not working together, you're the go-to person for them. So even if they don't work with you right now, sometimes they tend to come back just because of the customer service you have with them. Like I get direct access, like I can use her network and she's probably already vetted them out and this, that, and the third. That makes you look good. So like getting to have it at least networking, at least 2 people a month, I say. 1 to 2 people at the bare minimum. Just kind of building your clientele up, not clientele, building up your network and form a relationship with other service providers, because it does help. And then also too, they tend to send clients your way anyway. So it's like a win-win-win situation. And okay, I did have this question in there. I just completely overlooked it. So like, what do you need to know before the sales call? I put that like the website and budget in there. I already mentioned that. So we got that in there. And then also too, if the client decides to move forward, do you offer payment plans? Do you prefer paid in full? Just little things like this. Like you want to make sure you have an idea of everything, because these are going to be questions that come up at some point, especially if you do high ticket. I do air quotes because I don't even know like what the numbers are for high ticket. I guess over like 5,000, I guess 3,000 somewhere. Anyway, so if you have like a high ticket offer, this comes in handy so they know, and you have that set up already or whatever you want to do with that. Cool. So this is what I really want to get into. So like we figured out the intake form. Let's say y'all decide to work together. They paid, yada, yada, yada. Now what? First, starting off with, once they paid, what information do you need to start the project with? Like we already have like an idea of what they need based on a lead capture. So you know they need a VIP day. They know what they want process mapping. Like what do I need from them now? Or like what kind of things do they need to know about working with me now, because they're actually in my space now. So things like that you want to make sure you answer. So like with mine, I'll do like a welcome email with the welcome packet, which you saw the template. This kind of gives them an overview, like my hours, when I work, how I operate, the types of tools I use for their specific project, things like that. Like you want to keep things, again, you want to communicate this stuff because they should know. They may not always read it. Maybe about half my people actually read what I give them, but at least you can kind of like relay back and be like, okay, I already sent this over, because I will happily send people over. Like, if they have any questions, like, yeah, that was in your welcome packet. I sent in this email and I'll forward them the email. But that may sound kind of rude, but like you want to establish the habit now. Like you're not always readily there. This again falls back to our boundaries. We're not always readily there. Like you want to help them, like you do that and the third, but at the same time, your time is precious and you already gave them information. They should look it over. So having that stuff ready is definitely helpful, but I will say definitely having a welcome packet, welcome email. And then of course, if there's particular things that you need, having different forms or doing something new I'm doing. Sorry, I gotta take a sip of water. My throat's dry. Okay, but doing forms, something new that I'm doing is having people record videos instead of like filling out forms, because some people get really overwhelmed doing forms. But again, it goes to knowing like the type of clientele base that you have. And also doing too, I don't think I have this on here. I keep thinking of random stuff, y'all. That's my problem. But something else I do too, like with their client intake form, what I'll do is ask like their best learning style. Do you prefer videos? Do you prefer like text, or do you prefer emails? All that stuff, like things like that. I'll ask inside the intake form, and depending on what kind of services you do, I suggest adding those in there as well, because people have different learning styles, and not all the time. They won't always tell you they struggle with something too. And that's why too, when I do SOP videos, I make sure there's captions and all that good stuff, because not everyone's going to tell you they struggle with something on text, or they don't understand videos and stuff. And even for myself, I actually have a hard time understanding videos and stuff too, which is probably why I don't watch all of them. So like having captions, sometimes that helps me. Like even though I can hear fine, I can see fine, like sometimes my brain just doesn't catch up and stuff, like little things like that. But I'm not going to think to mention that to somebody when they get me onboarded. So like being a step ahead adds to like the luxury mindset, like wow, like she's really like wanting to pay attention to me. Like again, the luxury mindset when it comes to that. Like you're taking them on an experience. Like they know they're gonna get their services done. Like that's already expected. They're already paid. You want to go above and beyond within means, because you're not going to do all this extra stuff and not get paid for it. But you want to go above and beyond within reason when it comes to like the experience with working with your company. So things like that. So I didn't mention that on this worksheet, but because you have the video, we have that. What else do I want to mention? I always recommend, because it's a Lux, we're a Lux brand. What kind of wow factor do you want to add to your project? So like, yeah, the communication stuff is awesome, but what else, what other little incentive do you want to offer inside your onboarding or your process? So something for us, I like sending out client gifts. I have an affiliate program. And now since I'm starting up, well, since I'm getting rid of some stuff now, I'm going to be doing like some more marketing, because past clients have expressed that they have a hard time marketing. So now I'm going to find something where they come on my platform, they can share it to their platform and get that process rolling. But what kind of incentives do you want to offer them? Like, again, we want to take them on the experience. Like, we don't want to be average. And honestly, average, the bar is set really low, because a lot of times people don't even do email. Sometimes they don't do contracts. And so you're already above and beyond if you already did that stuff. But what can you do to go the extra mile so you really stick out? So something like that, say add the wow factor, whatever you feel like matches your branding, do that. You don't have to do this. Sorry, I've been talking too much today. But anyway, you don't have to do this part, but I highly recommend it, like with the onboarding process, doing that, just because, again, you want to wow them. Like we want to tickle the different senses. And then once you do the once you fulfill like your contract, whatever what is it called? The task descriptions, whatever it is, whenever you fulfill that portion, then it's time for the onboarding process, offboarding process. I know I didn't go through all these questions, but again, I don't want to hold y'all here reading off the workbook. So with the offboarding process, I just wanted to hit on that, because a lot of times too, sometimes we'll do the project and then kind of be like, there you go. Or sometimes, like even with me, when I've hired people, like I'll get the work done, which is awesome because that's what I paid for, but it's just like there's nothing else, or like I don't hear from them. So it's just like, and then I get random emails, like mailing list emails. So I'm just like, oh, I guess we're done. Like, okay, like I got the project, like it's cool. Like I got what I paid for. So yeah, but it's just kind of like, that's it. There's no, and I honestly forgot to even like leave reviews. I try to leave reviews and stuff, but like there was no place for me to even leave anything or feedback. And then if I don't get anything, I tend to forget. As y'all can tell, I'm kind of absent-minded even doing this, but little things like that. So like with the offboarding, one, I put how will you ask for the review? Because like you want to ask for feedback, because this is what makes your business. People are making your business. Like what kind of feedback do they have for you? Like I have it split between, they give me feedback based on my performance, and then like of course like the overview, the overview one for social media and things that I share. So having a review form definitely is helpful. And then also too, like some of you got the offboarding packet, like the overview of their project, the dates, all that stuff. Just little things like that, like finalizes the project. Like, yeah, they got the finished project, but like they also get like the overview of like what was done. Well, oh yeah, I forgot she did do that. And then also too, what I always recommend people doing, because a lot of people don't do this, is the SOP videos. So with that, if you did like a build or something, or you did their website, whatever you did for them, I recommend at least showing them how to, like, I know it sounds simple, but like some people actually struggle with this, like how to log into the thing that you built them, or where to find troubleshooting tips, anything that would be useful for them, because they're going to be by themselves unless you offer ongoing support and they're moving forward with that. If they do that, then I will still recommend. You know what? No, what did I even say that? We'll still do that. Still do the SOP videos. Y'all, I'm dying. All right. So what kind of deliverables? I already put that in there. How do you plan to stay in touch? Like, are they going to be on your mailing list? Some people don't want to be on mailing lists, so how are you going to support that? Something I do is add people to, like, what I'm terrible with, either adding to ClickUp, or like I'll have their business cards and stuff handy, or I'll keep their stuff in Dubsado and I'll mark them like a certain way so that way I can follow up with them. But overall, you still want to keep that communication open, just because they become, either they may be a repeat client or they'll send people your way, but you want to make sure you still stay on top of mind, even though they already work with you. So like making sure you have kind of that set, like this may not be too much to add on here though, but you want to make sure you have like the stay on top of mind thing, whether they work with you or not, sequence. So that kind of falls in line with like everybody else, but they work with you, they are your referral source because they are the living, breathing proof that you did something. So like you want to keep that communication tight. So that's all I pretty much have for that. Of course, once you fill out this complete workbook, then everything kind of goes into everything comes into the flow. So with process mapping and mapping out your processes, it's going to be messy, and which is why I had to have the questions here first. It's going to be a messy situation because like you're still drafting out things. So whenever you complete this workbook in particular, you can kind of copy and paste everything into like a document, or you can write it out and then test it. Because once you test this out and you like the flow of stuff, or you realize there may be some gaps as you work with clients, whatever the case may be, the more you test it out and the more you get comfortable with it, then you can document it. Because I know some people want to hire people to manage it for them, especially when they get busy. But before I get to that part real quick, let's hit on the software. So once you have this mapped out, like if you want to hire somebody to manage things for you and set something up, you want to show them like the processes that you already have written out here, because, excuse me, all of this is going to go, everything is going to pretty much go into what they need from you, the information they need from you. So once you have this, you kind of organize it in the way that you need it to be, then you can figure out what software you need for that. So like I just put a few recommendations, but again, it depends on your field, excuse me, what kind of services you provide, because these may not even be a good fit for you. And I I have way too much stuff, but also too on the website, we have like the tools we love websites, so you can look at more software and stuff that you can use for your company. But if you need any more suggestions based on your service level or your services, feel free to reach out to me and I will happily give you a list of things you need, because again, there is so much and people get so overwhelmed with these things. But as long as you have your processes, as you can see, as long as you have these mapped out, you know what you're working towards, it makes it so much easier to use these software just because you have it planned out. All right, and final remarks. Yeah, my throat is so dry. That's why I keep stopping. So like my final remarks on this, don't be afraid to make changes as you grow. Like I mentioned, this is process mapping. Processes, yes, it's good to write them down, and these still go under SOPs, the documentation part of your business. It may not be like the recording, like I mentioned on my pages and stuff before, but like this still falls under SOPs. Like this is the process how you want something to work. So like if someone were to come through today and help you with your onboarding or build out the software, show them this workbook. Like you already have everything mapped out for them. Show them this workbook. Like, oh yeah, I did this. Like they're gonna need this kind of information, and probably just a little bit more, because of course you want to be more in detail, like intake forms and like what kind of stuff you want to have in there. But like if you have this filled out, you already did the process. So like if you were to hire out for that, you got it. So make sure you fill it out and start your documentation. But overall, start with something and stick with it. This mainly is for the software too, just because once you map out your processes, yeah, it's going to change, but it shouldn't change too much. So whatever software you stick with, at least stick with it for a few months and kind of play around with it and figure out like where you want to automate and all that good stuff. Like, because you're putting the process that you did inside this workbook inside of the software. So like if you want the workflow to be like lead capture, I want to do the acceptance denial email too, figure out how that's going to work inside there. Oh, I want to send out contracts, invoice, and all that stuff. All of them do the automation for that, so that's good. But having set packages, adding that stuff in there. overall, all this stuff is going to go inside the software that you choose. And if you decide to change down the line, change. Like it's not gonna, it doesn't matter. And yeah, I said, you start your documentation journey. The videos come once you did the actual source, or once you did the actual tested process. So like you wrote this down, once you tested it out in software and everything, and you're comfortable with it, and let's say you decide like, I still want to hire help with this stuff, you can record yourself like, this is what I did, like in Honeybook, I did this, I have the acceptance denial email, I did this, blah, 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 blah. Then you document that, have all the captions, all the fancy stuff. But as long as you have the written processes, you don't have to worry about the videos right away. Like you are fine, you have everything you need right here. So I just wanted to mention that. And then of course, being snazzy, I got my business digital card. So if you aren't connected with me, stay connected with me. You also get an additional discount if you decide to do a VIP day with the Lazy Millennial. Excuse me. But overall, that's all I got for y'all. So of course, if you have any questions, please utilize the consult link and we can work on your stuff individually. Because of course, like this is kind of broad, and like with any workshop, a lot of it's going to be broad just because we all come from different backgrounds and we're all trying to go towards different goals. So if you have something going on, or you feel like you want to, whatever, if you want to do something personalized, we got that, because I'm losing my train of thought. But personalized help, use the consult. Thank you guys for coming, and I'm going to turn off this recording now. Y'all have a great time, and hopefully you found this useful.